just to kind of kick things off. vCIOToolbox consists of 4 modules. Only 2 of them come with a fee, QBR and GRC. Everybody gets key account management and customer experience. To give you a little flavor for what each module brings, key account management is almost like a CRM Lite for the vCIO. It also provides like oversight metrics for the management team to really get a sense of what's being produced through the account management pipeline, what's meeting, what meetings are taking place and when, so we can make sure there's a meeting compliance cadence going on. We do have strategic planning tools like an account rater, a business canvas, a SWOT tool, so you can really build out nice extensive profiles for your customer if you're doing a little bit more strategic planning with some of those larger key accounts, and various other tools. A couple of new things coming into this, or that have come into the system, Brian, since you last saw it. We do have a global scorecard now where we're able to see all the individual customer business reviews and security reviews in one pane of glass, seeing who's above above the average line and who's below. So really getting you some cross customer analytics. And coming into the system either later this week, early next week, depending on how testing completes, we've got a white space analysis tool as well. So if you utilize our tech stack template inside the QBR module and kind of measure out your tech stack and how people are adhering to it, you'll build out a framework where you'll be able to see who's compliant and not compliant to various aspects of your tech stack and what the value of the upgrade is going to be. So really be able to plan out your upsell and cross sells as well.
For each of these, if we don't, let's say, use CMMC or CIS, can those be filtered out, or does it show all of them?
Right now, I wouldn't go by this one because I've got a bunch of stuff that's in progress that hasn't been closed out yet. Usually it'll shape and size itself just based on the assessments that are underway.
Okay, because I'm going to end up having NIST and then a couple customs probably.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I mean, you see, I got a custom down here, a couple of customs, but they can always assume in my demo there's junk that doesn't belong there.
You're telling me that Chubb is not an official technology standard?
Nope. It's we were starting to play with the Chubb Insurance cyber liability model, but not an official standard.
Okay.
And definitely, could be taken the other way, right? Now, in terms of other things within the system, that just to kind of show at a high level, sales pipeline, we've got the full pipeline within key account management. You can see all your existing customers and filter on different conditions like completed, in progress, all things like that. And then you can filter at the customer level as well. So if you want to look at individual customer pipelines. And one of the big differences in the pipeline that comes into vCIOToolbox versus what it might be in your PSA is we are looking at the full plan, the full 2 to 3 years over here that you might build, or really up to 5 years, most folks can build up to. Whereas inside of your PSA, you're going to look at your active pipeline, things that are probably closer to the dollar, depending on how you manage that.
Yeah, so I think the big key here is when we have opportunities that are 2-3 years out, we don't want to have an opportunity that's open for 900 days.
Exactly.
Opportunities to live in vCIOToolbox and then get pushed forward into Autotask or pulled out of Autotask. So
both ways. So generally what ends up happening is we're pulling out when you first come on board. So obviously you can leverage those open opportunities as part of your roadmap development when you get started. And then as you build on new opportunities, you have control in your management dashboard to decide when you want to send those back to Autotask. Most folks will send them either when they get adopted by the customer into the plan or when they're within 6 or 12 months of the due date, depending on how you manage your active flow.
One of the, I guess we'll call it the hopeful, I don't know, use cases or how our reps are going to use this. So Jim, CTO, manages some of the major accounts. He does not log into Autotask. So he loves the idea of having his own little vCIOToolbox world. If he were to literally click and drag one of these like line items as far as projected close date, can he just move those forward and that's going to update in Autotask?
So what it'll do is when you come into the system, you wouldn't be able to pull it over here. This is more visual here, but you do have a management dashboard that then can do that and will push and sync with Autotask, yes.
Okay, so if he wants to manage his QBR and say, all right, we're going to change this date to, next October.
Provided it's already been sent to Autotask. You'll see here that you've got kind of your dashboard of different recommendations that come in. They come in a variety of different ways. You're able to control what's actually showing on the roadmap. You'll see I've got all these check boxes versus unchecked boxes because these might just be transactional projects or things that came in through, AutoTask that might be historical. And then when I'm ready to push things to Connect or AutoTask, I can push them to AutoTask. Once they're in AutoTask, then they're related, and then those updates will occur. Now, if it originates in AutoTask, the one thing I will say to you is we don't have the ability to change date when it originates in AutoTask, because we do treat AutoTask like the source of truth. So anything that we create into AutoTask, we can modify, we can update because we were the creators of it. Anything that was created in AutoTask that comes to us, we view AutoTask as the source of truth because that was the originating source.
So that's not an API limitation, though. You should be able to. So, like, the reality is everything's going to get created in AutoTask, or 90% of the stuff, Jim's just going to call up to Thomas, our inside sales guy, and say, create an opportunity.
Yep.
And Thomas is going to create it in AutoTask, but then Jim's going to manage his opportunity, ideally from vCIOToolbox,
Yep.
and want to be able to push those dates out from vCIOToolbox and have it sync with AutoTask.
Yeah, at this stage, I mean, the syncing will happen, but the updating happens on the AutoTask side, just where we are at this stage with that integration.
Okay.
All right. All right. So, we kind of hit the CAM at a very high level. Our dashboard will show you those roadmaps. I showed you a little bit about reporting, just a couple quickies here in the customer profile. This is where you'll see some of the data coming into the system. So you'll notice here, this is where we have 5 points of integration with AutoTask today. We import your customers. Those customers remain inactive in vCIOToolbox till you activate them, and that's when they become part of the subscription. After that, you activate the customer, we pull in your assets, we pull in your contacts. You'll also notice as you create files and artifacts as part of your assessments, they'll come into the file section. We can build departments and sites, and we do have a task manager within the system as well. Then we have a couple strategic planning tools, the SWOT analysis tool, which allows you to chart some of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats across your customer. Usually this is used internally, but you certainly can set it up for external use and include in reporting if you would like. And then we have our business canvas tool, which really allows us to map out the relationship with the customer. If you're familiar with the business canvas model, it is a common business model taught in a lot of MBA programs. It's really set to help you identify your customer's value proposition. How they go to market is on the right-hand side of this equation, how they support their clients, what their revenue streams are, what their sales channels are, as an example. Over on the left-hand side, we're able to see the operations that support that. And generally, what this really helps us do is on the right-hand side, we often find areas of innovation or the ability to extend out services we do today to help with workflow or productivity. On the left-hand side, we sometimes uncover security concerns that don't come up in many conversations, like they're using an outsourced help desk or outsourced call center, sharing sensitive information with those folks, but they've never inquired as to whether or not they have security awareness training going on, any level of social engineering, and certainly haven't done a vendor assessment, right? So we uncover some of those issues. From an account management perspective, partnerships and customer segments become referral sources. So as you start looking at how to target referrals with your customer, instead of generic, hey, how you doing? Who can we help? You can be really prescriptive. Hey, Howie, I see you're working with Brian Doyle over at vCIOToolbox. I've been trying to reach that guy for a little while, haven't had much success. Would you mind making an introduction? So it really kind of helps round out the conversation with the customer and gives you a little bit more intelligence. It's also good for sharing if executive teams are going to go out and meet with the executives of that customer. It's almost like giving them a little bit of a briefing on what they do before they go. And as you bring new VCIOs in and as territories realign or turnover occurs, it'll really help other VCIOs get up to speed on the accounts they inherit very quickly. So that's just kind of a high level on CAM. Any questions there?
I'm good.
All right. So now let's jump into one of our customers here. So when you come into the customer experience, the menu really mirrors the workflow that you're going to be utilizing when you meet with your client. Things start out by building a calendar event. We then, on an annual basis, work with our customers to build a strategic plan, which will guide the roadmap creation and really help us explain to the customer how the tech plan is meeting their business objectives. During each meeting period, we conduct an IT review. The IT review is a simple assessment looking for gaps in process system security and training. And once those gaps are identified, you can generate either tickets or recommendations depending on what your requirement is with your customer. These items will then develop your roadmap, which gives you the financial view of all the different projects you have, with being able to show those inflection points where there's non-recurring projects of substance that your customer might care about. And then this all ties together in your recommendations area, where we now drill into each one of those bigger picture projects on your roadmap and look at the actual project, what it consists of, what the costs are, and then more importantly, how they tie back to the strategic initiatives we've identified in the strategy plan. So that's kind of, a quick high level on that process. I'm going to stop there and ask if you have any questions before we look into the calendar a little bit.
No, sir.
So the calendar is a pretty straightforward process too. Like any calendar tool, you're going to name your meeting, set your date. You can assign your engineer and vCIO resources. You can even bring your customers into the experience if you want to assign them here and send your invitations from here. Invitations do include a calendar invite, which then integrates into your calendar. And you notice we can also build in this case, it's a ConnectWise ticket, but there would be another green button here. I've just already used it for this meeting, where you can create an auto task ticket so people can bill their time. The real
is there a Teams integration where, like, if I create the meeting in here, it could be a Teams link?
Yeah, we don't have Teams integration yet. No.
Okay.
That is something being explored, but does not exist yet today. In terms of meeting type, this is kind of the critical path for building out your review. While most customers start with us utilizing the platform for business reviews first, we do have other use cases within the system. Discovery is a pre-sales use case that allows us to, basically undertake a small mini assessment with a customer, give them something of value during the sales process, but more importantly, start showcasing how we're going to communicate to them long term. The tech stack review, as an example, is where you can measure your customers against your tech stack. Today, it generates a report card in a value or a budget for what those upgrades will be. Like as I mentioned earlier, in about a week, we will have the white space analysis built into the CAM, where you'll be able to see all those different customers, how they adhere to your tech stack, where they're compliant and not compliant, and what the value of the upgrade is going to be there. Our cloud assessments for customers moving to AWS or Azure, just really making sure you got your I's dotted and T's crossed. And you can build other meeting types within the system if you require them, and build your own templates for those as well. So that's just a little bit about the meeting. Templates get attached when you assign your customer. We've got our template library here, and you'll see that the business review templates are all stackable templates. So you can customize the assessment to meet the technologies that your customer utilizes, and really make sure that you're speaking to, even though we're managing a global template fabric, really making sure that we're able to start customizing the assessment to meet their individual needs.
So each of these templates, how does this, like the first thing that you showed us where it was the assessment overview, do these roll up into that, or these are parts of a custom review?
So the business reviews can be assembled into different parts of the customer review. And then these other meeting types can be separate assessments. So you'll see when I come into the IT review here, I've got this meeting selector, which controls what I'm doing. Right now, I'm in a business review and I'm conducting my business review. And each of these sections represents a different template that I associated with this customer's piece, or, this customer's assessment. But notice I can change to my tech stack review. And now I get the questionnaire that's associated with my tech stack review, but I'm still leveraging the same roadmap per customer. So I never get out of sync with my recommendations.
Yeah, I think, Howie, the biggest takeaway here is the NIST framework and any custom like tech reviews all roll up into the one vCIO meeting.
Right.
Let's talk about your roadmap.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the big piece for me is the fact that all of this can link to tickets and tasks in Autotask. So long gone will be the days of me saying, Robert, did you do the thing? And he goes, oh, well, it was an action item, but
exactly.
I didn't have it in my tickets.
Yep.
Yep.
And once something gets put into your roadmap, that's always the first step, and I'll be showing that in a moment. But I always look at my existing recommendations first to see if anything was pulled in from AutoTask or already exists from me doing answering a previous question in the assessment, because it's not uncommon. Some of these projects tie to 3 or 4 items that are deemed non-standard, and connect there first. If not, you'll notice that we have a not tied to tech stack because that's a separate assessment. But if you come back to our business review, every one of our questions has a suggested recommendation as well that is already pre-built into the system. We usually have at least 1, sometimes 2, and you can add to that catalog. And that's available to you for single clicking in the report, but you're not bound by either of those. If you can't find what you're looking for amongst your existing or your suggested, you can absolutely build one on the fly as well, making sure that that item's accounted for in your roadmap. And to Brian's point, that works but across GRC and QBR. So if you're in either segment, no matter what your workflow is, you'll be attached to the same roadmap.
Is there a way? So let's take NIST CSF for an example. So in the NIST CSF, I may have things, are devices being, are forensics being done? Are devices protected by antivirus? Blah, blah, blah. So let's say 5 or 6 things. All 7 of those different NIST questions all are answered by they need EDR. Yep. So I sell them EDR. I can then reference 10 of the questions in the NIST CSF for that solution. But here's the question. Can I have templatized solutions that are pre-mapped to the NIST? So that way, Jim doesn't need to remember the 10 questions that EDR matches to. He could then just take the EDR solution and it says, these are the 20 questions in NIST that the EDR solution would hit.
We handle that probably a little differently than what you outlined there. That would already be built into the recommendation down here. It's not uncommon, depending on the questions, that you see the same suggested recommendation for those items that they align to. You would pick it once, and then you would connect to the rest by just choosing that product here after you do.
What I guess I'm saying is, so like the recommendation that you have, I can select that recommendation of install.
But it will not map back to the other 10, because this really, you'll see in these questions, that becomes more of a that there's some subjectivity to that, depending on what you're doing as an MSP with the solution. So
right now I'm maintaining a spreadsheet that says when we sell EDR, I have to go remember to update these 15 questions.
Yep.
Like move their maturity forward. And I'm looking for, is there some way that I could like have a recommendation library that already has the questions linked to them?
That is something being explored. It's not here today, Brian. I don't know if we're going to be able to get to that full answer, but we've been asked to publish what we have in our templates to a centralized database for easier sharing across customers. And I know that's something that's actively being explored and put through the business requirements test today. I can certainly add to that, conversation that there might be an opportunity to map those recommendations up front, but no, it does not exist today.
That's fine. I'm really good at coming up with ideas for vaporware.
Yeah, these recommendations are tied here. They're generally connected. If I came to this, it would say, hey, add your EDR. If that was one of the 10 it was there on. I'm sure if you sent me your spreadsheet, we could make sure that your suggested recommendations tie up the way you want to, should you come on board. But then it's really incumbent on the user to remember not to use, not to build 2, 3, 4 of the same project.
Right now, what happens in Axio is I can create a recommendation or an action item, but I then either have to have 37 instances of the same action item, or just only put the action item on one question.
Right. So I'm
able to do one, and then I have to link it each time.
You can do one to many, but it's not automated.
Yeah.
That's a simple statement. It's and again, some of that is because some of it is subjective as well. Like we're going through right now the cross mappings between all the regulations. And one of the challenges there is it's not always a one-to-one mapping from regulation to regulation. It can be one-to-many mapping for regulation, and it's the same thing. How do we provide you that information so you've got it in a way that you can digest it, and then when can we get it to a point where we can automate it? Couple other things, Brian, since I think the last time we met, just while we're in GRC, you now have the ability to bring your customers into the experience as well. So it's not uncommon that when you're doing a security assessment, you need to get feedback from your customer. You can assign them as a delegate to a number of questions. When you assign them as a delegate to a question, when you're ready to engage those customers, you can come here. into the delegation tool. You'll see all the different questions that have been delegated to each person. They can answer that question. They can apply notes. They can upload evidence for you. They can even add a confidence level. When we send them that invitation, you'll see that it goes out and they'll receive a link that takes them to a portal. They'll then create their password. They're assigned a temporary password. They'll then create their password and they can go in and answer these questions. These questions will start populating into your assessment, even if the customer is not 100% done. Like as they go in, if they go in and save some and then kind of move on and come back to it, as those updates occur, you will get those updates back in the system. And you'll see here now that I've created a delegate and sent that out, it creates a delegate box here. So whatever notes the customer supplies back to us, we can elect to use them just simply by checking on the arrow here, or we can use them to guide whatever we want to put into our CIO review. Okay. Their answer will also come back here and preset the answer key here, but we're still responsible for gauging where risk exists.
All right. Okay. One interesting piece on this with the delegation, do you have a mechanism or plans to provide, let's say, third-party vendor surveys where I could then send out to vendor A 27 questions, not so much the NIST framework, but a separate, like, if they have 10 vendors, I can send out automated surveys for them to reply back about their SOC 2 type report or blah, 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 blah.
We have a whole third-party module that's about 3/4 of the way through development now, starting to get into some testing for vendor assessments, vendor engagement, so we can do some of those up front, vendor connection, because it's not uncommon that the same vendor who responds once may tie to multiple customers, you know, those kind of things.
So, ooh, that's nice.
Yep. Third-party assessments are coming into the system. I would expect to see them in late Q2, early Q3, just based on development, where it's at, and some of the other items that we've got in our roadmap just prior.
Most of our customers are not even mature enough to have their own stuff in order, but it's good to know that that'll be available by the time they're ready to start asking their vendors if they should together.
You know, we're seeing what's going on out there too, right? Yeah. So that's just, you know, to give you an idea that this is kind of how the GRC side works. It's very similar to what I'm going to be showing you in the QBR in terms of how you answer questions. You know, we have a number of different templates. You know, if I go, let me just jump into one of these guys here. You know, you can go between different assessment types. You'll see CIS here. It's geared more like the CIS assessment truly is, where you've got the ability to, where it's got 4 answer keys that contribute to the score. Our NIST-1871 allows you to generate your SPRS score and track those SPRS updates as you need to report them to the DoD. And then we've got some traditional scoring modules as it relates to the NIST that, you know, really kind of take it and break it down to a score that a customer can identify with and understand.
Yep. Yeah. I forget, as far as change over time reporting to show, hey, August 1st, we were at a score of 78, and now we're at a score of 99.
Yep, hang on. I'm trying to find the customer that I built that has a bunch of reports in. I apologize. I came at it the wrong way. Well, if you look at it this way, I can show it at this kind of level. Over here in the score history, you will see the score history change every time you close the meeting. So like if you're doing a NIST 800-171, every time you improve the POAM, complete a project and change that risk, you would close the report again. So you would lock in this score. We do have a dashboard that then shows the dates of those meetings. Okay. And I think that's coming in. That's actually coming in with the release next week, where you can actually then pivot to the dates and you can go back to the historical records as well. See, not just the, you know, what the score improved to, but where it improved.
So the other thing is, I mean, this dashboard's pretty nice. I should probably send you a sample Axio report.
Yeah, please feel free to. We'd love to see it.
It is a very, very pretty PDF that has the details in there, but it's just a one click. It's already customer facing pretty.
Yep. And we've got reports like that built into our system as well. Depending, you know, again, I got to see what you consider to be pretty as well, because sometimes, you know, there's tables and things like that. But, you know, absolutely, we've got some pre-built reports and things that we would do during onboarding. We do have a report designer where you can get really granular and build some really cool things. You can add in different types of cover pages. Like this is our full page cover page that we can bring into our reports. we can bring in different custom marketing sections. So if I go just into one of these reports, you'll see when I come down into custom sections, I can bring in different infographics that become part of the report. We've got some up in our for download in our university, but you can also bring in other images that you want to bring in to make different points throughout it. Our CIS report has some good tables that kind of really go over that as well. So point being is there's things to make it prettier than kind of a basic report if you want to. You've got those capabilities. And again, depending on what Axiom looks like, we'll see how far off we are from that. Other questions there on GRC?
Howie, anything?
No. I think you're kind of asking the questions that need to be asked.
Okay. Yeah, if it's as far as templates go, Howie, just so you know, we publish all the templates that are regulatory based. That way, when those regulations change, we can push those updates out to your systems. But good, you can absolutely, as Brian pointed out earlier, you can build different custom assessments. You notice I've got a couple in there, and they're easy to pick up on which ones they are because they're the only ones you can delete.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. You still have some customization capability on these templates. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, Brian, but you can build recommendation choices into here. So that's that catalog of common responses.
Ooh.
And what I don't know if you saw, this is new in our update that came out last month. We now have the ability to put how-to items in. This was a big request on the QBR side because folks want to obviously get their lower cost resources in on these assessments as well. So you can build kind of how-to steps if you don't already have. You can link to standard operating procedures you might have in an IT glue or something like that. You can put up videos. You can write content right in here with how to do it. And it's really meant to guide people into how to get the answer based on the technologies you use back in your stack. Okay. And I'll show you what one.
So now on the NIST CSF, let's say 1.1, if I add recommendation choices.
Yep.
And then I actually saw an article that they're looking to do a revision of NIST CSF.
Yep,
and
2.0 is going to be massive difference.
They're going to add governance as a new thing. So what ends up happening to all my recommendations if 1.2 comes out or 1.3, I'm going to have to remap everything? Or
nope. The 1.2 and 1.3, you would get the updated questions with change logs, and it would probably require you to put common responses beyond the ones we would support to you. When it gets to version 2.0, we candidly are going to have to look at what 2.0 looks like. For example, when we have CMMC 1.02 and then CMMC 2.0 is kind of in process right now, right? So 1.02, as you recall, was 5 different maturity levels in a different set of questions. 2.0 right now kind of mirrors the NIST 800-171. It has only levels 1 and 3. I mean, it says levels 1 and 2, but there's only 2 levels today because the 800-172 hasn't been ratified yet. So we had to create a new CMMC 2.0 template. Basically, you would retain all the information you have in the 1.02. 2.0 would have new catalog items. Yes, if you wanted to map different catalog items beyond what we have, you would have to do some mapping there. But again, the only thing that forces that upgrade this way was because we went from 5 maturity models down to 2, max 3. And there was no way for me to keep the historical without building a new template in the same framework. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it really depends on what they do to the assessment. What I expect is anytime we're in version, 1.0, 2.0, 8.0 in CIS, those updates in version will commonly get done in version. And then we're going to have to look when they put out the new versions, how dramatically they've been changed. And we shoot out change logs when those things happen too. So you know exactly what questions were added, what questions were changed, so you can take the steps you need to take. Questions, concerns, thoughts there?
I'm good.
No, I'm good. No, good.
All right. So just coming back over to the QBR for a moment. When you come in here, it starts with building a strategic plan. The strategic plan can be leveraged across the security side, of course, as well. But really what it's geared to is, the QBR being more of kind of a day-to-day security and operational review, look at things. It's really being mapped to what your customers' key objectives are and what their challenges they might be facing on the way to success. In this plan, there's really three things that are being done as it relates to the customer experience. One, it's to help us be a better partner to them by better understanding, where they're trying to take their business, as I mentioned. Number two, it's an opportunity for us to showcase our leadership capabilities as part of the process. A lot of our customers just know us as the operational guys, right? The guys that fix things. We want to make sure that we're up-leveling our perception in their eyes and letting them know that we want to fill that unoccupied CIO seat for their organization. So usually we bring in the IT goals into this plan, and then we work with the customer to get the business goals and business challenges. Down below each one of these goals, what you're looking at are the different projects that you connect to it as you're conducting your review. What this allows us to do is, as we build that roadmap, tie those projects back to the goals that they help in supporting, so we can really communicate to senior executives, exactly how their technology plan is meeting the business need and where we are in the process of delivering on it. So you'll notice some different visuals there. The green check marks are the visual indicators that tell us things have been adopted formally by the customer, call it certified for the program. The racing flags show the projects that have been delivered. Yet the difference between yellow and green is yellow usually ties to in-service service contracts, so things that have been started but not yet completed, and green racing flags tend to tie to non-recurring projects. But I'm now able to share with their CEO or senior member of their team, hey, this is where the tech plan meets your business goals, and we're about 69% of the way through this plan right now. So really putting some visibility and transparency into where technology supports it, making sure they also see where technology is supporting initiatives that sometimes don't get directly related to technology. And again, we work very closely with the customer to build out this section today. And that can be done either in a workshop mode using our meeting view, or post-meeting, we do have a process called Business Insights, where you can survey your customers. We've got different roles-based surveys listed here, and basically get feedback from them. The top 3 questions are uneditable because whatever our customers supply in those 3 questions will dynamically populate the dashboard. Here, if I have multiple key stakeholders, I'm hoping to see some overlap, so I know they're running in the same direction. And then down below, we get more into the individual's point of view, how they feel technology is supporting their company, how they feel as the point of contact the employee and management's competence in tech is. What's their risk tolerance on a scale of 1 to 5? How do they view our services at a variety of roles, response times, and value? So this really allows us not only to understand the corporate plan and what the corporate direction is, but also where the individuals within our relationship sit. And for those that might not be favorable with us, we might be able to discover why they feel that way. Maybe that guy that's always shaking his head no in your meeting, he hasn't expressed to you he's been having a problem with our help desk or our on-site engineers. And, if we see something like that, we might be able to get out in front of it. We suggest doing this annually with your customer as part of the strategic build-out process. And then that feedback will come back in here, and you would have blue buttons to look at the individual responses. And we, of course, have aggregate reports so you can see, the entire customer's point of view. And that's really kind of the strategy plan here. We use it to stay engaged. And a little bit later, you'll see we use these goals to build the why statement behind each project. Any questions on the strategy view today?
No, it makes a lot of sense.
The IT review is pretty straightforward. It's similar to the security assessment in terms of, what we're doing. The nice part, though, is it's not a one-size-fits-all process, as I mentioned. Besides being able to just stack the templates that might have relevant technologies your customer requires, I'm going to go out on a really big limb here and say I bet all your customers are not the same shape and size. And to accommodate that, we have different maturity levels, which allow you to right-size those assessments within the templates to really meet the need and complexity of the customers you're working with. You'll see here with the templates I've chose at level 1, I've got 68 standards to assess in my gap analysis. If I go to level 3, you'll see that expands out to 158. We pre-built these templates to have 3 different levels, but you have up to 5 you can leverage, and you can certainly customize our templates as well. But this really allows you to right-size the assessment for the customer you're going out to see. Any questions there?
No, sir.
All right. So now I'm just going to drop down at the bottom of the assessment because I want to grab a question I haven't utilized yet. And as far as actually answering these questions, it's pretty straightforward. You come in here, you choose an answer. If everything's green, you leave the scoring mechanism as is. Down below here, you can apply engineer and vCIO notes. And Brian, since the last time we connected, we've actually given you the ability to predefine some of these questions or responses, so you can bring them right into your boxes from our settings. You can predefine up to 5, and we'll store up to 10 total, because the system also learns your responses dynamically. So as you create a response here, Howie, it will be available to you for the next customer as well against this template. So common answers can be reutilized as multiple choice once established. Okay.
Nice. Very good.
Now, let's go the other way. If this question's negative, scoring is based on how we rate best practices, vulnerability, and risk. So you'll see here, if I say that doesn't meet our best practices and poses a business risk, you're starting to see the little visual indicators here on the left-hand side pop together. The red boxes on the top let you know which questions have a problem. This green box corresponds to the note here. If I click save, it'll put my check mark letting me know this question has actually been answered. And because this one is negative, I now have the opportunity to take action. Action usually comes in one of two ways, either creating a ticket or creating a recommendation. Tickets tend to tie to things that are covered under contract. Creating a ticket is easy. We assigned a landing board when we set up the integration. And now when I send this ticket, which of course is spelled wrong because it always is, now you've created that ticket in ConnectWise. You've got the ID, you've got a hyperlink to jump to that ticket, and you're going to start tracking the status as that status gets updated back into vCIOToolbox. So we can show the full life cycle of the ticket.
That's fine. That's very cool.
Now down here in recommendations, this is where we're building roadmap. And as I kind of already alluded to, first place you want to check is your existing recommendations to see if there's a project that already exists that you can align here. If not, you can look at our suggested recommendation, which again, you can expand on inside the template, and you can leverage that with a single click. Otherwise, you just build a recommendation here by putting in a summary.
Hold on, the suggestions. You have pre-built suggestions?
Oh yeah, we've pre-built at least one, if not two, for every template we provide to you except the tech stack.
Okay, so can you just go to, let me grab a random NIST.
Yeah, let's go here and then, let's go into the business templates because it's exactly the same on the GRC side. So if I go into any one of these templates,
well, I want to see what your recommendation is for a specific NIST question.
Oh yeah, go for it.
All right, first I'll go with an easy one, and then I'll go with one that's very obscure.
Yeah, that's fine.
Go to detect anomalies.
Just tell me where you are so I can.
Let's go with DECM4.
Okay. So we've got basically a simple one: implement standard systems and tools to detect malicious code. Obviously, we're not naming any products, anything like that, because everybody's got different stacks.
Okay. And what about DEAE3? So go up.
So here we've got to establish a system for aggregating and correlating event data.
All right, so now let's go to a random governance bullshit question. All right, what about IDRM3?
Sorry, I went to risk assessment.
Yeah.
We've got informed risk tolerance determination. Evaluate your risk tolerance based on your organization's role in critical infrastructure or industry sector.
Yeah, that's just restating the question, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, again, there's 100 different ways that people attack projects on this. Definitely no way that we would.
Like IDBE1, your role in the supply chain. Like, great. Like, you get products, right? Write down where you get products from and, who you give product to. I was just curious if you had magic bullets for me. That's all.
Probably not magic bullets, probably more generic bullets, to be perfectly candid, right?
That's fine.
Things to help you get started, things for those that don't have a clue.
I'm
to
trying to
support them.
delegate. I'm trying to delegate this goddamn risk management to somebody lower than me.
Yeah, it's fine, but Brian, the thing is, let's look at what those things are.
Yeah.
Should you come on board, we would look at those things, and I'm sure we can get them built into the system based on what you want to present for those replies, and then you'll be able to pass that down to people very easily. Because all you would be doing,
I was just looking to not have to do the work myself. That's all.
Well, that part I can appreciate, man.
Yeah.
If they would ever get to the point where all these things line up the right way, and we didn't have 40 different regulations saying the same thing, and 400.
What you should do is you get a Chat GPT integration that is take the question and just have it write the response for you.
Well, yes, I would love that, except it all depends on what that response is too. I'm sure you've already seen Chat GPT doesn't always answer.
Oh, it's perfect. It's never wrong.
So anyway, the long and short here, just going back over to QBR. When we go into roadmap here, this is showing you the roadmap for the customer. I think I showed you this at the global level, but this is the customer-based roadmap, month by month, year by year. We do have a meeting view, and these filters were purpose-built to kind of answer questions that commonly come up in budget discussions. Things like, hey, what have we completed since last time we were together? You can click on completed projects and show that. Hey, I'm running out of money and I need to just focus on high priority projects. Well, you can, click on the high priority project, filter and see what the difference would be in budget. So you can have that conversation in real time. So, really just trying to give you the tools to be able to answer those common questions that come in during a meeting as well in real time. And then, as I mentioned, everything ties together over here in recommendations. And you'll see as you go down this descending timeline, each question has its timeline, what its priority is, what its cost is. And this is where we tie back to the strategic plan. We can tie these projects back to the goals that they help in supporting. So when we're showing it to the customer, I could say, look, by implementing MFA, it's going to cost you $1,000. And what it's going to do for you is it's going to help you hit your PCI compliance requirement, as that's one of the requirements in that act. And it's going to make sure that you maintain that strong security posture that we're working for as well. Would you like to adopt it into the plan? Decline it. If they decline it, you can safely remove that from the roadmap in your management dashboard. And that will allow you to keep the history of when it was declined, even though it's not something we're putting customer facing in future meetings.
Now, what about like a report? So let's say I have, a real chucklehead that's, negligent, and they decline a whole bunch of stuff. Can I pull a report? Let's say I have turnover that just quickly shows like these are, oh, here we go. Yeah. Yep. So this is everything that you told me I didn't have budget or I don't care.
Yeah, this is what you told me I'm not going to do.
Yeah.
For whatever the reason, I'm not going to do, and we're not going to talk about it anymore. Or at least not in the near future. And yes, you can retain that, because what happens is when you come into the manage area here, you would just keep this project that was one, here's a perfect one. It's declined right up here, right? Projects on the roadmap. Customer declined it. I take it off the roadmap. All the created and modified underlying metadata stays with it. And but now it's not part of the customer visible review anymore.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to keep it on the review, you can, so you can revisit it. That's really up to you.
Yeah. UI preference, you should change that little logo when you flip it to the switch facing the other direction, and like not black underneath, but like, I'm talking about. Like,
I actually think there's some greens and reds coming into it in this release. I saw that on some stuff. I don't know if it's exactly this key, but I noticed that there was some green and red actions coming into play.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's just it's fine. I'm a stickler for pretty.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I do know that there was some green and reds coming in when I was over in QA playing with stuff. I just can't remember. Was I on this page? Was I on an asset page? That's all.
Okay.
And as you can see here, from a push to PSA perspective, anything that hasn't been pushed to the PSA or hasn't been imported to the PSA, you've got these check boxes. And I do know the stuff getting imported. If it's not in this release, it'll be next release. You're going to get a little bit more, you're going to get a column that tells you where the lead or where the recommendation originated from. Our asset management tool, our IT review tool, your PSA, or your we're going to be importing agreements soon from the PSA as well, so you don't have to manually build them into the review. And that'll be another choice. All right. Any other questions here, guys?
I guess not, outside of the green and red buttons.
All right. When we come over to the meeting view, just to give you a sense of what you can do over here. The reason meeting view asks you to look up the customer's name again is because you can log into it directly. So if you're at a customer site using a screen, obviously you don't want to show your entire customer list to your customer. So, we're able to hide it a little bit.
Oh, so you get a separate URL for a meeting?
So meeting actually, so it's still part of the main URL. But when you come in, like, let's say, just say for argument's sake, because I can do this quickly. See here where I can click on this box that says log into meeting view. Boom. Now I come straight in to the meeting view.
That's an interesting 2FA code.
It's my back door, man, for demo use only. It's one that they built to just this ID for my demos.
So what you're telling me is you're not compliant.
Just in my demo system, which is an independent system.
Okay.
I go in and out of this thing too many times to stop that conversation. So I did have them build me a little backdoor. Now, when you come over here into Beta Partum Group, this customer, you can build an agenda. Very easy to build that agenda. You can make an agenda, master agenda, then edit around it as you see fit. In our performance dashboard, you're able to see your review score, strategy score, remaining forecast, gaps, assets out of warranty. And if you connect our Microsoft integration, you'll bring in secure score, current percentage of users on MFA, license versus active users.
So here's my problem with secure, well, not so much secure score, but MFA. So if I set up a tenant and I've got at Network Outsource, we have 70 employees. In our tenant, I've got maybe 200 users in my Microsoft tenant because I have shared documents with external users. So if I shared a document with Brian Doyle, I'm not requiring you to MFA to access my file remotely. And that is getting hit in my MFA score. And then the end user client will say, what do you mean I only have 66 people using MFA? All right, well, it's the external users that
and unfortunately, the challenge I got is that's just the data that's presented to me from Microsoft. I would love to have external users and internal users not listed together, because I have the same problem. I run all my ramp camps out of Teams. I've got 500 people in my ramp camps, got 10 people in my organization. You know what I mean? So it's the same. I run into the same problem, but it's a limitation today of the graph integration and what I'm able to get for information out of it. It doesn't discern for that particular get command between
maybe if you do the graph, you'd have to quantify it yourself. So you have to do the graph list of users, and then any user that includes, I think there's a pound symbol in every external user. So you could potentially do your own,
Yeah, I mean, and those will be things that I could see us advancing into. Secure Score just came in about 3-4 months ago. So, right now we're starting to expand some of the other use cases. But, I don't know if, that one, I'm not as privy to what they got coming next.
Okay.
I feed over the fence kind of some of the business requirements, and they're trying to, each release, they try to build a little bit more into each one of these.
And I forget the assets out of warranty. That's pulling out of Autotask's asset information.
Autotask information or IT glue. In April, we're introducing warranty lookups into the system natively in ours.
Okay. Yeah, because right now we're looking at scale pad and life cycle, whatever. And the issue is that we get warranties through N Central, which updates in Autotask and IT glue. But the problem is that stuff that doesn't have a warranty put into it, by default, Autotask just assumes that it's a 1-year warranty and populates the field, and then it's incorrect.
Right. Yeah. So, again, this is definitely we're reliant on what comes into us in order to do that. But that's part of the reason we're building in the warranty lookup. So if data is incorrect, if data is missing, we can then fill in those gaps.
Is there a way that I could potentially, for at least assets out of warranty, is there a way that I could filter vCIOToolbox so it doesn't look at everything in Autotask, but maybe only a certain device type? So that way, if I have random bullshit that Autotask imported,
I'll have to take a look at that, because I think right now it's just based on active and inactive.
Yeah, because let's say I have my voice over IP phones. I really don't care if they're in or out of warranty, but if they happen to be put into Autotask, it's just going to put 1 year and then show that they're out of warranty, and then the customer is going to get all pissy.
Yeah, I don't have a solution for that. I'll be
all right.
candid.
You have a solution for a lot of things, so
I have a solution for a lot of things.
My standards are high.
Not all of them. And you look, I think you've gotten to know me enough, Brian. I'm pretty transparent about what we don't do. And I will only tell you about things I've seen code on. If I haven't seen code, I'll be like, that's still vaporware, man. I know it's out there, but I know it's
So,
not
so
in play
step
yet.
one in Howie's life, he opens up the agenda, says, "Hey, welcome to the PTR.
Yep.
Here's your dashboard. Look, we got our
Yep.
forecast. We got some best practices. Your IT review. You guys suck. You need to get more users in MFA." Then he moves to the strategy tab.
Yep, strategy tab, and then you're able to tell the strategy story. Hey, with this customer, we're about 45% of the way through our strategic plan. Here are the different goals and challenges we have. If it's the first meeting, I might be introducing these goals and challenges and engaging the customer to build out a few. And I'm able to dive in here to show which recommendations are tied to which challenges. We make it a collapsible because once you start getting into this plan, you can see it can get very long. So we want to make sure you can keep focus where you want to keep focus. And again, check marks are adopted. Racing flags mean they've been delivered. Red X's means they said no, but it's still on the plan because
we hit scorecard.
Then we go to scorecard. Scorecard is your standard traffic light scorecard here. You got an overall score. Each one of your templates will show you a different score, so you can get very granular here, because with your small to mid-sized customers, generally you're going to talk scorecard and go straight to roadmap. If you've got a co-managed customer or a more technical audience, you can absolutely go into the individual findings one by one, but very text heavy.
Okay.
That's the findings. They'll get that in the final report anyhow for auditors or compliance officers. But generally, you can make your points right here on the scorecard.
So what we typically end up doing is our NIST. So we have a NIST risk management offering, and then we have PTRs. So although it's nice that they could live together in one roadmap, I almost don't want Howie, what are your thoughts? Like, if we start going through the NIST survey and let's say they've got, 30% of the perfect score in NIST, do you really want that on the scorecard every PTR, or do you want it to kind of be like almost two separate PTRs or two separate scorecards?
They are two separate scorecards.
Yeah, I like that separate.
So this is all strictly QBR, right? These are just the things that you've got in your QBR templates.
Oh, okay.
Notice if I
go to
click
GRC. Gotcha.
Yeah, if I click the GRC icon here, now it's QBR. It lets you go back and forth.
Gotcha.
I'm coming in and now see I've got just my programs. I've aligned to this customer here. Here's one where you can see the the overtime scoring like we talked about with timestamps and dates on when those were closed up. Down here, you've got your plan of action items. When you come over here to your program overview, you're able to see your questions, your satisfied risk, accepted risk, POAM risk, score history, and your red, blues, and greens. Yellow doesn't really show up here, hence why we have blue for mid-tier. Then we go into strategy, just like we did before. We have different scorecards, and those scorecards toggle between different assessments you might conduct based on the programs you assigned. So you can even show a little bit of detail there. And then we've got our traditional roadmap and in our plan of action, so it corresponds to the printed reports.
That roadmap, if I view it in QBR or I view it in whatever, does it contain all the same stuff?
It does contain the same stuff, but depending on what your use case is, you can also make adjustments to that between them. People have different reasons for everything. Some people want to trim down their plan of action just to the security projects here. So you would just manage that through your manage area, pull things off your roadmap for the purposes of showing it on the the POAM only, and then put them back on it as they're required. For
I guess, we're not using the platform, but if you were able to have like a filter for just like high level category of
And then we've got, am I back in? No, I got to go back over here to GRC. The one thing you'll see in plan of action, when you're in GRC, you can assign to different resources, both internally and externally. So, as you know, a lot of times in the NIST, those chores don't belong to you. They belong to the customer, right? And this is how we make sure that that's represented appropriately in the POAM. Here you just see it visually, but in the reporting, it'll tie to the plan of action, showing you the current status of the project and who's the owner of the POAM event. And impact also gets measured here. I don't think we had this last time we talked, Brian, too. So you're able to come in here, you're able to see what controls a project ties to, or how many controls a project ties to, what the impact is in terms of, improving score and things like that, and then what frameworks it's tied to as well. If I do list frameworks, I think I just got to refresh the page. This is new. There we go, open in progress. So now I'm able to show the different frameworks as well that are tied to each one of these projects. Questions?
No, this is pretty good.
So that's a high level, guys, and I do apologize. I got to jump off because we do our open coaching sessions at 3 o'clock every Tuesday Eastern time. So I got a group call in just a few moments. Any quick questions I can answer for you?
Can you just revisit the pricing again?
Yeah, I'll send you, Brian, I'll send you over the proposal and all that information again, so you've got it in full. Basically, if you go QBR and GRC, we start at $160 for up to 5 customers. And then we have tiers of 5, 10, 25, 50, 100, 200. And then after that, it's in, special case pricing. And I'll resend you that quote.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate your time.
You bet. So I'll send you that
I
quote.
thought you were
Brian.
thanking me, Howie. Jeez.
Nah, I don't need to thank you, man.
Howie, I hope I proved well with you, because I'd love to have you guys come on board, but I know you hold the keys, man. So
I got the key.
so I will check back. Brian, I'll get you this stuff across, and I'll check back with you in a few days. All right.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
All right. Bye,
Bye
guys.
now, guys.